ESL Summit. Transform to thrive.
Welcome, good afternoon. We are sure you're still alive. We had a great speech prior to our debate. Everything's been said already, so we may actually do it very quickly. But we want to focus more on the experiences of different generations we have. You may not trust me. I mean, looking at our panelists, you may all say that they Gen Z, but we actually have different generations here sitting in front of you. And the aim is to go through how we differentiate each other, how we can learn from each other, and what's going to happen next. So how to bridge the gaps, how to invest in the collaboration. We have the great panelists who will help us to take us through it. We also have a short presentation, and between different sections we'll try to show you the survey that we conducted among yourselves. We have sent the survey among the various ABSL company members. We received over 1,000 responses to that survey, so we know what your employees think, depending on the generation they represent. So we asked a question about, in 4 categories for these 5 different generations. And before we go and reveal the results and take through it and try to come to certain conclusions, I'd like to start with some kind of an ice-breaking type of question. From everything that Professor Sobierajski said, and also from what you see in a second from the results of the survey, it turns out that we're not really that different. We live and grow in different times. We have access to different tools. We observe different things around the world, but still similar things motivate us, and we still aim for the same things. So maybe, Marysiu, if you don't mind, if I start with you, how do you see it from your perspective? Do you truly believe that what you are aiming for as a student, as a social activist, is no different from what Ivona or Mariusz would potentially try to achieve today?
Yeah, sure. I think we are quite similar because we all kind of have the same goals. We all eventually strive for some career, for some work-life balance or just very basically to have a happy life. And this doesn't really change, but I think what changes is the context. And we live in totally different contexts. Especially it is visible in Poland because we are kind of a young country, let's say, because we have 30 years of really independent history. And so the generations just before the Gen Z, they are already touched by the history, by the transformation. So the context of their growing up is totally different than mine. I was born already in Poland, being in the EU, in Poland being in the NATO, in Poland, which was economically thriving. And I really must say that I probably have a better starting point for my career, for my life. I will probably earn more than my parents in the future. And it's not only me who think that, but also only 12% of Gen Z believe that they will earn less than their parents in the future. So we are better settled off at the start. But we also live in a constant global crisis. So we are better economically off, but we still live in a global crisis which kind of compiled together in the last years. So we live through climate change, we live through a huge mental crisis, we live through pandemics, migrations, wars, and I think there was not such a combo yet in our history. So the circumstances of our growing up is a totally different thing. So that's, I think, the major difference, the context.
Well, that's very true. And Mariusz, you are the person who likes to talk about the future. You don't like to talk about the past. So do you believe that, like listening to Marysia, do you think there is a space for you in the workplace in 30 years? I mean, would there be still...
Hopefully there is.
For sure there is a place for me in 30 years. I look very bright into the future. And of course, Marysia said we are similar, but don't be misled. We were well selected for this panel, right? So we are similar. But the reason for the panel is also to speak to more people who may be not that similar. So we can share a bit of those different perspectives and see if we are just well educated and we know what to do and how to bridge the generational gap, or we are also actionable. So this is what I am looking for in a very short future. In 30 years, I really think I have plenty of ideas how I will be prospering and well together with other generations. And I think Alpha will not be Alpha will be already like my age. So that's very amazing perspective.
Great, thank you. So, as I said, we will have certain sections that we'd like to go through. And just a few pictures that represent today's reality of the world, of how world communicates and of how younger generations communicate. That's memes. So we captured some to represent what type of the world we live in. And the story that Professor Stobierajski said is also there. Our parents who were, had an extremely long journey to school. But generally, the world is changing. And if you compare the past, my favorite one is the one on the right, where today's children are already very bored with the fact they have their birthday being organized in restaurants, in trampoline areas, in different parks, where we as children had two options in our kitchen or living room. And I think that just shows how the world developed fast, and we'd like to address it and show you that the world is developing fast. But we as human beings are still there and still aim for the same. So the first thing we would like to do is to answer the question, how do we solve problems? And we'll start with a short video. My great friends from PPG, Monika Hojde and Marcin Strzelecki, took a part in a kind of a camera cafe, short introduction to each of these sections. And then we go quickly through the survey slides and we'll start debating it. So let's introduce you to How Do We Solve Problems module.
Tak. Nie no, mamo, mówiłam ci, nie musisz tam iść. Zrobimy to razem przez komputer. No. No to masz włączony, dobra. No to teraz tak, otwierasz ten folder. No tam masz na pulpicie taki wygląd taki żółty, taki trochę jak katalog. No, kursorem. Hej, hej. No, taką strzałką białą.
Mama.
No, klikasz. No, przyciskiem. 2 razy. No i co się pokazało? No dobra. I teraz, wiesz co? Przyszedł taki kolega mój, on jest informatykiem, to on ci tutaj lepiej pomoże, dobra? No to daję ci telefon, no.
Dzień dobry. Proszę powiedzieć, co pani widzi. Okej. Files, dobra. Windows, dobra. Okej. To teraz proszę najechać kursorem na to Files i kliknąć. Kursor to ta biała strzałka. Jak nie ma? Jak zniknął? Dobra. To proszę poruszać myszką. To takie urządzenie na podkładce takiej z boku. Bez sensu.
Wiesz co? Tutaj kolega mi powiedział, że to chyba się zepsuło. To wiesz co? To może zróbmy tak, że ja może przyjadę po pracy, po prostu jutro wcześniej kończę. Tak, w niedzielę. Dobrze, zostanę na obiedzie. Mamo, nie mam jeszcze narzeczonego. Tak. 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 Tak.
Okay, so who didn't face that in your life? I mean, this is one of these examples of how do we solve problems. Different generations act differently. Is it because of us, or is it because of the technology that surrounds us? So the survey that we shared asked different questions. We're not going to go through it in details. You will all receive that survey results after the summit. But a couple of questions we did ask to check how do we react to certain problems. When my vacuum cleaner breaks down, what do we do? if you look at the results, you could see that vast majority of us try to fix it ourselves, irrespective of which generation we are in. We're generally curious about how things work. But the orange color shows you how observable change in the fact that we actually take it to repair point. But the biggest interest can come out from the gray or dark blue. I ask another person for help. And you would see that in many places that as the generations get younger, they're actually more willing to get help from others. It's the same if we look at how can I get along well. If I cannot get along well with someone in my private life, what do I do? And here the results are very similar. All the generations say, I try all possible forms of communication to actually find a common language. So people are willing to resolve the problem. People are willing to get to the answers without other interference. So as I said, there will be more to come and more information will be revealed. But let us now discuss a little the problem-solving part. So guys, we all have problems to solve. And they happen to us everywhere. But let's imagine the workplace or academic place or the school. Did you recently have the problem that you have to tackle and you struggled to resolve it? Ivona, did you face the problem that you really didn't know how to move on?
Actually, a situation where we are meeting problems are everyday situations, okay? And obviously, the technical home equipment is one of the most popular ones. And it's not about vacuum cleaner, but for example, for the blender or whatever. So I am in that fortunate situation that in my house, there are 4 generations living. I am Generation X, but I have a son who is a millennial, and I have 2 sons who are Generation Z, and I have 1 son who is Generation Alpha. So I have actually a lot of support, but when I ask them how the things work, everybody, or if I need to resolve a problem, it's an obvious direction for me. First, to see whether I can resolve it myself. I am trying to resolve it, but if it takes me too long time, I am looking for people around me to help me, assuming that they must be much better and they must be much more technical savvy than me. And obviously, this is the teamwork that comes at the end. And if the teamwork doesn't work, then, of course, there is always a third point it can be taken to the repair, which is very much confirming to what you said. So basically, there is a pattern, and I think when I observe similar situation at work, which is very much attached probably to a professional problem, how to solve the case at work, where, for example, we cannot get an information which is required, for example, in the financial business industry, which is required to proceed further with a transaction or with a project, then obviously there is a number of people that get involved, and obviously we always find an expertise, or it very often proves that the expertise is not with 1 person, but when many people come to the table and discuss, that's the best solution that comes as a result.
That's a very good example. So, Mirek, if you could tell us, what would you propose or what would you suggest from your own experience, how to build this cross-generational support in a workplace or in academic place, wherever we work together, to make sure that we achieve these results, that we connect the knowledge, experience, talent, ideas of different people of different generations?
Thank you. That's a very good question. The way we work at HCC with different generations is the first step is the key step is to understand the generational context. So what impacted again, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm a bit
just
stressed again.
Don't worry at all. Again, so think about having different generations that you need to spend time with. Then how do you find what the strength that they all possess to make sure that they can together achieve more than individually?
I will tell an example from my personal life. I'm a dad. I have a 6-year-old son, and I tried to teach him to drive to play football. And it was last year. I was very determined, provided the structure. I was really consistent with bringing him to the pitch, showing him, immersing him in football activities. But unfortunately, because my determination, he wasn't responding well to what I had in mind. Because I didn't understand at that point, that I didn't understand how he learns, how he explores, how he uses his curiosity to learn new things. And when I understood my failure, it was this year when I wanted to teach him to ride a bike. And the case was really similar. I already had an idea how to teach him a bike. I bought him a bike. We went to the park. And what happened is that at every single distraction, he was losing his control and balance, and he was falling over the bike. And I asked myself a question, the same logic that I apply when I work with leaders: why people fail? Why we are not achieving what we set to achieve? Why we're not able to work with different generations? And when I ask myself a question, why he's failing driving a bike, I got an answer that his attention span is very short, and he's very easily distracted with other things that are happening around. So when I took him to the park, in the certain setting, he was distracted by a swan on a lake, or people playing on a playground, children playing on a playground, or other bikes riding the path. So what happened is I changed the setting. I took him from the park and put him on a playing field, football pitch, very restricted area. And within 20 minutes, he taught himself how to ride a bike. And it gave me the better understanding of how to really apply that logic in the business. So the way if we want to bridge the gap between generations, we need to really make sure that they understand each other. So how we develop a learning experience, tailored learning experience, allowing those generations coming into one place and trying to understand how to work together. What are the differences, but also why those differences are causing the different problems and challenges in communications, in collaboration, in adoption of technology. So basically figuring out what is the reason and understanding that, accepting that reason, not trying to push like I was trying to push my young son to really play football. Now he found his own way. So 2 years later he's playing football, but he doesn't tell me that he's playing football. So that was my learning, and from try to fail again, and fail again better, try to find the reasoning, how to apply that logic. Yeah.
So a great story. Thank you, Mirek. And so, Natasha, you're the representative of that younger generation that learned probably differently than some of us here, although we're all Gen Z, of course, but you may have slightly different learning methods. And you're also playing in the Polish national junior team of golf. So this is a kind of an individual sport. But I'm pretty certain you have to learn from others to be able to represent the country. So what is that kind of a learning journey that you have to take, the problems that you encounter, the lessons that you have to learn to be a better person? Because ultimately, the same will have to enable in the workplace. You know, together with all of us here, we'll have to make sure that we enable the same kind of learning patterns to the people who we employ.
Okay, so that's a great question, actually. And I would also compare it to today's event, because this is the first time I'm in such a big place, such a big event. And I'm actually learning from older people, because I think you're all older than me. And I try to observe you, and just I see what you're doing and how you talk to each other. And and that's basically the same as I have with golf, with practicing golf. I have my trainer. He's older than me, and I just collect his knowledge that he gained through many years. And it can actually apply to various areas of my life, also school, yes, sports, social activities also. For example, as I'm in a mentoring program, my mentor is older than me, and she gives me some knowledge that I need to complete my program.
Great, thank you. And I think that's, of course, there's still a lot of people younger than you here in the room. Just look around. But it's great to see that and I think that's what we all should be aware of, that there is still that willingness and passion of younger generations to actually learn together with us. We often forget about it, and there are a lot of senior leaders who do not let the younger ones, the ones aspiring, to be close, to look what you do, how you react to certain problems, how do you behave. Where this is actually a joint venture, you can learn from each other. So thank you, Natasha. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get back to our presentation. Let's move on to the second part, and this is how do we communicate. So let's see what our Camera Cafe has to say.
Stary, skmin to. Byliśmy z Alanem na siłce.
Klata?
Nogi.
Ne, lipa.
Daniel, Sigmo, a ty?
Też byłem. Klata. Kto robi nogi?
Rel, stary. I jak?
Niezłe Kongo, poszła seta.
Szacun. No to co, na maczka?
G.
Ty, o co chodziło?
Nie wiem, coś jakby lorneta i galareta w Kongo?
W Afryce?
Znasz inne Kongo?
Starzyści.
Okay, so it's about the communication methods. And here, of course, it was about the language being used. You may have not realized, but that was the last 4 years of the Word of the Year in Poland. Although four words have been used in this short video to present how young generations actually communicate. But we've also asked about other things. So which communication channels do you prefer at work? And which one do you actually use? And you could see here in blue that those are communication platforms like Teams, Slack, Google Chat, and they respectively year on year or by generations, the usage is growing. What is shrinking though is work email. So it gives us a very clear information that that is changing, the way how we communicate at work. What is also interesting is that there's a very similar level of the mobile communication applications. So we don't like emails, we like chat. But on the right-hand side, we can look at how do you obtain information from the world? How do you learn about surrounding world? And here what is very interesting is, of course, information portals are being in majority for all of the generations, but the purple color shows you the influence of social media. And then you could see that by the generation, that grows from 5% to 32% for Generation Z. And then similar to podcasts. There was very little and grows generation by generation. So the way how we communicate, the way where we take the information from is varying. And those are all the people that work for the companies we work for. Those are the people we ask the questions. So ultimately, there's a strong influence on the type of a communication in the workspace. So coming back to our panelists, Sami, Natasha, quickly come back to you because there was a very interesting discussion we had just prior to entering here. When I asked Natasha, how do you find the first slots, the first part of the conference? And Natasha said, it's very interesting, but how can you stay in one room for 3 hours? And that was kind of, inspiring, let's say, to me, because it is hard. I mean, we do it to ourselves. We put ourselves in the room for the full day with short breaks, 3 hours, one slot. Even right now, we have 50 minutes debate. Probably some of you are already gone. It's a very long time. So the attention span is changing. So I think that's a very great observation. Is that the way how you live? You prefer the short versions of communication, more kind of on demand, rather than like sitting down in the room for 3 hours?
I would also say that the thing is that actually today's world is much faster than it used to be like 50 or even more years ago, because we have actually a lot of information coming around the world, and we have a very easy access to them through social media or internet. And yeah, I think that the attention span is really different. Like we have shorter one. For example, I was very, very tired after 1 hour of the first panel, but then I fortunately got better and yeah.
If I can add, I think everyone knows the phrase, this meeting could have been the email, which is really useful, especially in the university, because I think, like, at least in my faculty, there's really, like, a lot of organizational meetings which could have been, like, a long email, and I would prefer that, because I think nowadays it's not only Gen Z, but we are really bombarded with all of the information coming, the constant notifications, and we are just overstimulated. So, like, if we can save the time, save the resources and the attention for everything that we have to acknowledge throughout the day in the everyday life, we gladly do it. And I think for Gen Z, it's kind of natural because we just grew up with it like that. I think it was not like that for the previous generations anyway. So this is like the first time that people from their teenager age had to deal with such amount of information every day, and they are just overstimulated. I think we as generation, but I can observe that in my high school community, we are very much more aware to the self-care aspects. So, for example, the awareness about overstimulation and how to deal with that, that actually enabling the students to have their earplugs in the test can improve their focus so much just because of the small sounds that happen during the test when there is 30 people in the class. I think it was not the topic earlier at all. So I think this is like what we bring as fresh, and also maybe as a plus, but as a minus as well.
Yep.
I also wanted to add exactly like you said, Marysia, that it's not only a plus, it's also a minus sometimes to have so much information. But I think it is also worth mentioning about the pluses of how the information is so accessible in today's world. And I would also say that as we live in Poland, we can also feel it more because of how it is easy, for example, to travel or to communicate with someone from the other end of the world. And all of this actually happened in very, very short amount of time. But I wanted to also say about that information, that if you can use the information on your advantage, then it can be actually good. What I mean by that, for example, we have social media, and it's not only that we scroll through TikTok or we watch some memes on Instagram or Facebook. We can also find some very interesting accounts that offer some program, some mentoring, some, let's say, summer courses, and you can find out about them through social media, for example. I heard about a girl that she just came back from the USA from the exchange, and she got to know about the exchange. This is a free exchange to the USA. She got to know about this exchange through TikTok, and if she didn't see the video, she wouldn't spend a year in the USA. Also, on my example, right now, I'm here because of Girls Future Ready Foundation, and I wouldn't know about this foundation if not social media, because that's how I got to know about this foundation. So actually, if you can select the feed you want to see on social media, it can really sometimes change your life.
That's very true.
Martin, can I follow up?
Sure, please do.
On the same note that you've mentioned that you have interesting conversation with Natasha, I had an interesting conversation with Marysia here, and you've mentioned here during the panel that the university, the education is preparing you for your well-being and health well-being. What about career advisory? Is it preparing? Does it prepare you for your career choices in terms of would you like to be an expert and progress your career path in that sense, or maybe you would like to become a leader? What type of competences you would need to, what type of knowledge and competencies you would need to build? What's the support there?
There is no support, but actually I want to really grasp everything that was said, because I think it's a great summary of what was said during the whole Stream Talent for now, because as it was said in the earlier speeches, all people have talents and they should recognize the talents. I don't really believe in such a thing that we should study law and medicine and all become doctors and lawyers, because that's not how the world is. But this is really, really still trendy opinion that actually guides people in choosing the studies they take, and this is actually due to this no support in career advices, and no communication, because the parents don't really understand their children and vice versa. But also just because I think this is also the function that the high school should maintain, which is the career advisory, so that the teenager recognizes their strengths and weaknesses at the very early stage. They can then do their research, maybe on TikTok, maybe through the websites, and look for the opportunities they have, and then choose wisely the studies they undertake, because in the universities, I think it's not really possible to provide such care. I think maybe on the university level it would be, but I think it still wouldn't be on the individual level like it could be provided in high schools, and it's not. So I think this is like a real pending issue, and it's also misguiding teens, just like that.
I think that's something that's common for all the generations. I don't think that millennials or Gen Z had a really good support in terms of career advisory. I think that we could all benefit. In my case, when I chose my career and university, it was just opposite what my parents want, because they wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, study informatics, and I went for international business because this was so much distance from what my parents wanted to do. I ended up lucky to develop myself and working with people, but the knowledge I have now about career advisory, how to work with leaders, how to help them to understand what type of assets they have in terms of the track record of achievement, but most of all, and this is what is not addressed at all, it's about personality and how our personality determines how we perceive and explore the world and how we acquire new skills. And without that knowledge, we are what I would say passengers. If we would have that knowledge about how our personality is determining our behaviors or cognitive aspects, how we make decisions, do we consider a lot of risks, or maybe we don't have at all tension, we don't understand any risk, we don't see it, so it would be different way of making decisions, and about the career, about professional work life. So I think that's something that we should really, if we are talking about bridging the generations, we should really think about career advisory, especially at the moment that we have the demographics is just a challenge for us. With AI a little bit offsetting the low number of new employees coming to the market. But I think the new reality would be that we would have 25 years old a manager and probably a 50, I don't know if you watched the Robert De Niro film The Intern, so probably there's going to be a 50 years old intern that would like to recalibrate career, and that's going to be a challenge for those people there. But they will have the right attitude, but if we will be there able to support them in their career advisory. So that would be my point of view, that maybe we could, as organizations here from the sector, we could address that in some way. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Mirek. And I think this is a great summary of the fact that we can talk about generations, but actually we talk about human beings. And we are different, not only because we've been born like 50 years ago, but it's also because where we've been born, who did we grow up with, and there's so many different factors that we should enable everyone, irrespective, and not necessarily looking stereotyping by age, but actually enabling everyone to learn and get to know the potential opportunities to grow from the very beginning. Okay, so let us move back to now the third part, and this is about asking the questions, do different generations think differently? So it's actually the way how we think different from one from another because of the generations we represent. So let's look at the intro video.
No hej Monika.
Cześć Marcin.
Słuchaj, jest 10 i nie macie w biurze. Wszystko w porządku?
Wiesz co, nie będzie mnie dzisiaj.
Okej. Bo?
Nie spałam tak dobrze jak zawsze, więc nie jestem zdolna do pracy.
Czekaj. Nie spałaś tak dobrze jak zawsze.
No dokładnie.
Jeszcze raz, ja to powtórzę, dobrze? Nie spałaś tak dobrze jak zawsze, więc nie będzie ci dzisiaj w biurze.
Dokładnie tak.
Aha.
Halo.
No, cześć Marcin. Chciałam ci tylko przypomnieć o tym, że jutro jest impreza firmowa, także liczę na to, że będziesz.
Nie po to zostałem programistą, by spotykać się z ludźmi.
No tak, Marcin, ale wiesz, zaprosiliśmy Podsiadło, zaprosiliśmy Sana, a potem planujemy iść razem na pizzę, na piwo, także przyjdź.
Tym bardziej.
O, Alek?
Okay, so that was not only about generations, but generally about who we are. Some of the results from the survey, we tried to ask people in the survey about values. We started with worldview values. What is important to you from highest to lowest if you look at the world surrounding you? And here you could see baby boomers and Generation X, where for baby boomers, the light blues, I care about my privacy and share my data carefully. This is the top. That was the most important from the worldview values, whereas the lowest is the internet is the best way to connecting to the world. What I wanted to show you is the Gen Z on the next slide, where you could see that the data privacy thing, the blue one, drops already to the middle, and only 12% of people said it's important, where the most important is the well-being of my loved ones and the well-being of the people who are close to me. It's interesting to see how this is changing, how the expectations about finding free time, which is the second here in category both for Gen Z and millennials, how the expectations from the world surrounding us and from what is important to us is changing with the generations. And one more, which I very quickly go through, because it's also very important, is about the professional values. And then what is important for us at work. And here, ability to work towards my lifestyle, so the work-life balance is the top for baby boomers, for Generation X, but as you could see, it's also the top for millennials and Gen Z. So we are actually all thinking about our well-being of the work-life balance. This is extremely important for us to have that comfort. So another interesting fact for Generation X, for Generation Z, you could see that at the second highest is actually ability if you can find the better job, you will be more easily to move. So to find another location if you can find a better paid job. So there is that correlation about work-life balance, but also money that we earn. So looking at these differences and the fact that we are. Although we are different, seems we are the same. And looking at the survey results, it seems to be very close. Maybe, Mariusz, I'll start with you. Do you feel that things like love, friendship, family are less important for older generations and more important for younger generations, or things like this worldview values, what is important for us, where do we take information from, who is close to us, remains the same over time?
So I think, Marcin, these are the things that are varying very slightly. Maybe sometimes we are in different positions. Some have more friends, some have more family, right? Not everyone can speak about their wife. So this is the slightly differences. If we look into the very many researchers, you will see that the generational gap is really not that big, and it is even getting smaller over the years. Maybe with one exception, I think that the time flies differently at different age. This is saying 6 minutes, and I just started the panel, so that's probably the only thing here. Now, I wanted to share some of my observations towards those differences, if you allow me. We are here also the leaders in our organizations, and we are the leaders in the workplace. And now, knowing that the differences are coming from the individual perspectives, maybe more than from the generational perspectives, we need to ask ourselves if we create really the inclusive environment, on which we are basing this environment. Are we asking our employees or future employees what is the value proposition, right? And then we can target it not for the specific generation, but we can target it for the specific person. I lead multi-generational teams for 15 years, and I work in the innovative company. And for the innovation, this cooperation between the generations is super, super important, right? And when I speak to other leaders, I think we know a lot what to do, but I'm not sure if we are doing. So the question here was to Marysia about fairs, about knowledge, right? Are we as business leaders, are we creating this environment? So for example, juniors, right? Do we recruit juniors? Many companies say, no, this is time of a crisis. We are actually investing into the experts. This is dead end, because then we will never have people who are developing. We will never allow younger people to enter the business. We are not investing enough into the reskilling, which is a dead end also for the people with seniority on the market, but wrong skill. So there are things where we really need to invest to cover for those differences and to increase this multi-generational cooperation. I will add one more thing, because probably this is the last time I'm speaking, which is invite people who you really never invited to your decision tables. We created, with the Girls Future Ready Foundation, by the way, we created an advisory board for how we are leading and developing our site here in Poland. And we will be getting all the insights with regards to the strategic decisions that we are making, both how we are present on the market, but also how we are dealing with our internal matters. This is super powerful. This is really super powerful. The question you ask also about communication, and I will stop in a 15 seconds. We have different maybe styles of communication, but the true question is, are we really communicating? Are we listening? Are we asking? So very last example, when I started again this cooperation with the foundation, and as business we should support foundations because they cover for some of the areas that we don't cover. When I started collaborating with those young people, young clever people, I really didn't know how many things I don't know, and how really little I know about the current life, how really little I know about the current challenges, and, which is more important, possibilities. As the leaders, if you start inviting these people to your tables, if you start asking them questions and listening, communication is not about telling, it's about listening, we will transform ourselves. And our transformation, I believe, will also create better workplaces. This is really from me.
Thank you, Marysia.
Okay. Just to add, and also having in mind that we have here the audience of business leaders, I would like to a little bit talk about the business. And the fact that, really speaking, we have those years, baby boomers, Generation X, etc., etc. But this is not really, and there are theories like this, about the years of where you were born. Because it's probably relevant and important to understand where were the years and times you entered the labor market. Because it's different when people entered the labor market after the war, or I entered the labor market just when we started to create this type of businesses in Poland in the 90s. where we didn't have international companies, financial institutions, and we were eager and we were very hungry to meet different environment and different society. We were caring, like the new generations, Z, etc., Alpha, about work-life balance, interesting things, etc., but we had different opportunities. And the fact that we could interact with different reality made us able to work very hard, long hours, and was the work-life balance important? Yes, it was. Were the families important? Yes. But we had no option, because if we wanted to change our lives, comparing to the lives of our parents, we had to work. And by the way, we were finding a lot of fun in that. So, for example, my work-life balance was not that much in terms of free time. But I so much enjoyed being at work, and I felt so attached to the company, meeting people, and I was learning so much from other people, regardless of the age, and when I entered the market, I was 20, and obviously I was the youngest population in the organization, which is different today. But I think that this is always about communication and listening, because as we have been listening to the speech prior to the panel, it's both ways learning, okay? So like, for example, in my company, in City, we do on regular basis reverse mentoring. And when I met the population that came to the office first time after COVID, where they really joined the organization remotely and they were only talking through computers to other people, it was for me very interesting to get a mentor from that group to understand why they don't want to come to office and what would make fun for them to come to office. So basically, reverse mentoring, as you have mentioned, it's very important to listen to the young generation, regardless what kind of experience they do have, and also recognize that they have great experience in technicalities, in applications, in languages, because really speaking, they had much better options to travel, study abroad, and speak English than our generation, because we did it in school. There was no travel when I was going to the secondary school, really speaking, yes? But we cannot also remember about the older generation, because sometimes we employing people for attitude and learning them for skills, it really helps us to get this better balance. This is not a good organization to have only Gen Z or to have only baby boomers or Gen X. So this is all about the balance, and our business leaders should think about the programs, upskillings, and other initiatives that would help to build that healthy balance in the organization.
Thank you very much. And our time is up. We could actually, speak here for another hour or so. So summarizing, what we have to do, the call for action, and Natasha is very eager to say, so you have 10 seconds, Natasha.
Okay, yeah, I actually wanted to make a quick call to action, and actually I wanted to ask you to be open-minded, no matter if you're older or younger, because everyone can learn something from the other person. Create the opportunities for younger people, because in 20 years they're going to be bosses, managers, they're going to actually take your position, for example. Just have that in mind, that in 20 years we are going to be kind of you. I also promise, I think that most of younger people, if you ask them, for example, if you don't know how to do something on the computer or in your mobile phone, they will for sure help you with this. Just to get the opportunities to learn from each other. And yeah, that's actually what would bridge the gap between our generations.
You may like us or not, but we are 100% of the future, so we're coming.
And yeah, create the opportunities and don't expect us to have 10 years of experience at the age of 20.
So we knew with Mariusz then inviting them that will end up this way. But that's exactly what we wanted to do. So we had a very good mix of different views, worldwide views, professional views. So let's learn from each other. Let's listen and hear what the other side has to say. And let's work together, build common projects. Let's allow us to be one team, because that's the only way to allow us to succeed, because we are all needed. Irrespective of generations, we all need it. So let us build these communities that can benefit one from another. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. You were great.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.